Hey guys, and thank you. We're going to begin with a Fox News alert. After almost 3.5 years, the president giving Americans an end date for the COVID pandemic emergency. It falls nearly 8 months after President Biden declared the pandemic, quote, was over. This is the Faulkner Focus. I'm Julie Banderas in for Harris today. So finally, May 11th, that's the date. That is the date that marks the end of the crisis, officially the crisis status that we have been in since January 2020. One thing that's not ending, though, the spending. President Biden showing no signs of slowing down when it comes to handouts. In fact, his student loan relief measure looking more expensive than we initially thought. There's a new analysis which shows Biden's newly proposed income-driven repayment plan is going to cost you taxpayers, get this, more than $360 billion in the next decade. That's on top of the almost $470 billion in direct loan forgiveness. It all makes for a possible escalation in the battle between the White House and Republican lawmakers who say the spending must stop.
I think that we finally maybe reached that point in time where enough is enough. 18 trillion in debt when I got here a little over 4 years ago, now 31 trillion. It's gotten to a point where if you don't start exercising a little bit of discipline like everyone else does in this country, all other entities, we're going to be paying a big price for it.
Fox Business correspondent Hillary Vaughn starts the hour off for us. Hello, Hillary.
Hello, Julie. Well, the president making it official, finally ready to declare an end to the COVID national emergency just 4 months after he made this statement.
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over.
But even though in September the president was clear the pandemic is over, the White House has been slow to end the COVID national emergency, now deciding to do so on May 11th. This is the Biden administration is gearing up to take the fight to the Supreme Court over their sweeping student loan forgiveness plan, a plan that is now supersized in cost. According to the Penn-Wharton budget model, one part of the plan focused on income-driven repayment of student loan debt, which ties your monthly payments to the amount of money you make, is now going to cost a lot more. The group writing this: we estimate President Biden's newly proposed income-driven repayment plan will cost between $333 to $361 billion over the 10-year budget window, more than twice as much as the cost estimate released by the Biden administration. These costs are in addition to the one-time cost of direct loan forgiveness that we previously estimated at $469 billion. As the Biden administration tries to approve billions of forgiveness in the name of the pandemic, House Republicans are doing an accounting of the money already spent in the name of COVID relief and where it went.
So we want to know what's the extent of the waste, what has this administration done to try to claw back any wasteful spending, and is there a way that we can claw back any wasteful spending, or at the very least hold people accountable for misuse of taxpayer funds.
And Julie, the president has also pressed pause on student loan payments, so people have not had to make those student loan payments every single month. That is supposed to expire at the end of June, but that's over a month after the president now says the public health emergency will end in May. Julie?
Hillary Vaughn, thank you so much. We've got Sean Duffy next, co-host of The Bottom Line with Dagan and Duffy on Fox Business, which officially, by the way, launched last week. So congratulations to you and to Dagan. Also a former Republican congressman for Wisconsin, also my very dear friend. So very happy to have you on all those fronts. All right, let's talk about this newly proposed income-driven repayment plan. They call it the IDR. It's going to cost up to what we just mentioned, $361 billion over 10 years. That's nothing to scoff at, because that is more than twice the administration's cost estimate, and on top of an estimated $469 billion in direct loan forgiveness. Is the president using COVID to cover runaway spending, you think?
Well, so first off, the president's using the administrative state, his executive powers to try to get around the Congress and forgive debt. Democrats want to have college free for everybody, no matter the cost, no matter whether you go or not. If you're going to do that, you have to have a debate in Congress. The American people should weigh in on that issue. Joe Biden is skirting that. But to your point, Julie, the pandemic, Joe Biden was right. It was over a year ago. I think most Americans today are like, what? The pandemic? It's not over yet? Do we still have pandemic policies in place? They'd be shocked by that. But the pandemic was a way for the administration to funnel massive amounts of money out into the economy to many of their friends. And they didn't want to end it because they love to spend the money. And in the report, you talk about how much money we owe. I think it was Senator Braun that was talking about $31.5 trillion. You need to show some restraint. These guys don't want to show restraint, Julie. Any common sense individual in America says you can't spend that much. You got to rein it back, or you're going to go bankrupt. And I've come to the conclusion, Julie, that that's exactly what they want to have happen. They want to destroy the American dollar. They want to destroy the American economy, because if you didn't want to do that, no one would keep spending the way that they are. Any currency, any country that's done this in the past, the music stops one day, and it's catastrophic for its people. Democrats know that, and they're just going to keep rolling on spending until no one's willing to lend us any more cash, and we have wheelbarrows full of dollars to go to the grocery store to just buy bread or maybe eggs.
Not to mention not giving any Americans in this country, especially students, okay, they're the wave of the future. What kind of example are you setting by basically giving out free handouts to people, saying, oh, you don't need to do the work to put in the time to reap the rewards of an education? So again, using COVID and driving us into deeper debt. That is the worst example.
Well,
I wouldn't teach that to my own children, let alone to the future of our country.
No doubt about that. And I wouldn't teach that to my kids, Julie.
Yeah.
But I mean, and the student is the one that gets the benefit of the education. So I have a contract, an agreement with a college or a university. I go to school, I get an education, and I think that over the course of my lifetime, I'm going to go out and make more money than what I spent on that education. But I don't make it up in just 5 years or 10 years. It is over the course of a lifetime, and you make that choice, you make that deal, and if you make the deal, you got to pay the money back. And to your point, what is the example to the American young people? If I don't have to pay back my student loans, maybe I don't have to pay back my mortgage, maybe I don't have to pay my rent, maybe I don't have to pay my credit card, and all of a sudden you have this downward spiral. But again, I also think federal employees, Julie, have loved staying at home. They haven't had to go to work. They're going to now have to come back to work on May 11th, and God help them when they go back into the office and see what real work is like again.
May 11th, by the way, that's 8 whole months since the president declared that the pandemic was over. 8 whole months. I just think about how much money we could have saved had he actually ended it 8 months ago when the pandemic ended, according to him. I got to move on to another thing I want to talk to you about. This jury, okay, that is acquitted